Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Stephanie.
I'm Tom.
Hey, it's our technology unit. I'm not very tech. Actually, that's not really true. I'm probably more tech savvy than a lot of people out there, I must say. I used to be really tech savvy. I was the manager of a department that was in charge of our website and our documents and things like that, so I knew a lot about the web. But I haven't been in New York for a long time. I've now been here in Taiwan for 15 years. So we're going to be talking about a part of technology that is newish. It's not new anymore, is it? Those are the QR codes that are so popular now. When people want you to, follow them or get more information from them, they won't give you a website. They'll give you a QR code.
Right, if you want to be friends with somebody online or something, you display your QR code and then they scan it and they find you right away on the internet and they add you and stuff like that. But this code can be also used in other situations. I think, convenience stores still use the old barcode mostly.
Oh, really?
But QR codes are quite common, as you said, and they are used pretty much by everybody, at least at some point in their lives. And so we're going to be focusing on QR codes today. They're the square ones. Just think of your Line app there, and you'll know what the QR code is. And yes, we're saying that it is quintessentially reliable. It's kind of nice there because we are using the letter Q there because QR has Q there, quick response. So we're using the word quintessential, which we'll explain in just a couple of seconds. But yes, it is reliable and it is necessary in our modern lives. So let's get to it. Let's read the entire contents of our lesson now one time.
QR quick response codes can be found everywhere. You can even find a number of them distributed throughout this magazine. Each subtly different from the last. They are the next step in the evolution of the barcode and a necessity in the digital age. However, you might not know where they come from. If it hadn't been for Hara Masahiro, QR codes might not have entered the mainstream at all. He was working for Japanese company Denso Wave in the 1990s, when the limitations of barcodes were becoming apparent. They could only hold 20 characters of information, but the increasing efficiency of technology required a code with more capacity. Inspired by the black and white pieces on a Go board, Hara created a square pattern that included positional information telling the scanner which way to read it. As a result, QR codes can store information both horizontally and vertically, packing a considerable amount of information into a relatively small space. After Hara's breakthrough, it took some time before QR codes began conquering the world. At first, they were used in automobile manufacturing. Manufacturers in other industries quickly found that the code's ability to contain so much detail was great for efficiency. It also helped them respond to consumer demands for greater transparency in production and shipping. And this led to the codes becoming more widespread. Another thing that boosted their popularity was Denso Wave's decision to make QR code specifications public so anyone could use them. Hara and his fellow developers wanted everyone not only to access the codes, but to also come up with new ways to implement them. As for what the future holds for QR codes, Hara says, black and white codes have become so mundane now. I'd like to create more spectacular QR codes that can stimulate people.
Okay, let's dive right in, everybody, and talk about the contents of our lesson for today. It's our technology unit, as we said, and the subject is QR codes, and we're saying that QR codes are quintessentially reliable. These are quintessentially reliable. They're the most reliable kind of code that is around right now.
Yeah, so kind of the perfect example of something is quintessential. So, yeah, some people, I know someone whose style of dress is quintessentially the 1950s. She looks like she should be dropped into the 1950s rather than live in our current day. So quintessential, the perfect example of something that could actually represent something. So you can even find them, these QR codes, distributed throughout this magazine. So, yeah, if you look through the magazine, every once in a while, you'll see those QR codes that will give you more information or let you know where to go for more information if you scan them. So if you distribute something, you hand it out, you give it out, you deal it out. It doesn't have to be person to person. You can distribute things through online communication or through the mail system. There are lots of ways you can distribute things. So if you look through the magazine, again, you'll see more of these QR codes in this very magazine you're reading.
And, of course, each of those QR codes is subtly different from the last. Most of us probably can't tell the difference between one QR code and the next, but if you were to actually pay close attention, you will see that the patterns are slightly different. Some areas are black, some are white. You've got those little tiny squares of black and white. They'll be in a different arrangement from QR code to QR code, so the differences are subtle. They're not really obvious, but they are there. And they are the next step in the evolution of the barcode and a necessity in the digital age. Now, the barcode has been around for a long time. It's just got those thin and fat, I should say skinny and fat black lines in a strip there, usually on all the products you buy, on your bottle of tea or your candy bar or whatever that you buy at your local convenience store. They will likely have a barcode on there, but barcode information is limited. I think barcodes are sufficient for convenience stores. They just need to know the price and maybe some inventory information.
Expiration of the product, perhaps.
Perhaps, indeed.
Yeah.
But at some point, you're going to need even more information. So at that point, you're going to have to consider the QR code.
Yeah, I think they're still kind of addicted to it or still hanging on to it in the grocery market business, where you're buying things from your grocery store, or even a place like a superstore like Costco or Walmart, Sam's Club, things like that. I bet, though, they're trying to transition over to the QR code because it holds so much more information. So if it hadn't been for this fellow, Hara Masahiro, and my Japanese is terrible, I'm sorry, QR codes might not have entered the mainstream at all. If something is mainstream, it just means most of the public knows about it or likes it or maybe is aware of it. So just ideas, attitudes, activities, movies, news. If it's mainstream, it means a good majority of people know about it or have heard about it. So, yeah, this is our guy. He's our QR code master, Hara Masahiro. So if it hadn't been for Mr. Masahiro, we wouldn't have QR codes, at least not as they currently exist. I'm sure somebody would have come up with it at some point. Who knows? He was working for a Japanese company called Denso Wave, and this was back in the 1990s. And he could see that barcodes were limited, or there were limitations of barcodes, and he could see that they weren't going to be able to, service them or be as helpful in the future as they had been when they were first used. They probably were amazing when barcodes first came out. But now that our technology had advanced, he thought, there's got to be something better than these barcodes.
Exactly. So this goes way back to the 1990s when people were still using the barcode, but the limitations of barcodes were becoming clear. They were becoming apparent. They were obvious that they weren't providing enough information, so somebody had to do something. And again, those barcodes could only hold 20 characters of information. That's not a lot, but the increasing efficiency of technology required a code with more capacity. So remember back in the 1990s when you bought your first computer, its hard drive probably had 50 megabytes or something, or 100 megabytes. That's ridiculously small by modern standards. So storage capacities started to increase, and I'm thinking that, yeah, the barcode just did not have enough information. They needed something that could provide even more information to go along with advances in technology, and that's probably how this thing came about.
They were looking to increase the efficiency of what they were doing. And technology was just advancing so quickly, they knew that they'd have to come up with something else. So when you talk about efficiency, guys, you're saying that something is being done as quickly as possible where no time or no materials are wasted. So if someone gives you a compliment and says, wow, you're a very efficient worker, it just means you're able to focus, get things done quickly without wasting time or energy. You just get things done very fast. Now, efficiency, of course, is the noun form. Efficient is the adjective form. And efficiently is the adverb. But we don't have a verb, efficient. We just have the noun, adverb, and the adjective.
And yes, we had increasing efficiency of technology, so of course we needed a code with more capacity. And of course, this was inspired by black and white pieces on a Go board, at least Hara was. So he was inspired by those black and white pieces that you use when you play Weiqi, or Go, as it's called in Japanese. So Hara created a square pattern that included positional information telling the scanner which way to read it. And that's a basic introduction to how the QR code works. And we'll continue talking about this in just a second. But let's take a break right now and listen to our Chinese teacher.
大家好，我是安娜。我们今天的科技篇要带大家来看看这个 QR codes。在做篇章结构这样子的题型我们要先看一下选项，因为其实选项当中会有一些关键字，它会暗示你这个选项大概会藏在什么样的文意，或者是大概会出现在什么样的句子的后面。所以我们先看选项 A 的选项，立刻就先出现了2个代名词，事实上是3个 it, them 跟 this。那如果我在英文当中有出现代名词，就表示前文有提到什么样的人事物才会出现代名词所以 A 选项的 it 一定指的是前面有一个什么东西， them 指的是前文一定有提到什么复数的人事物，这同样也帮助他们对于客户的需求做反应。客户需求什么呢？要有更透明的在制成以及出货这样子的一个过程。逗点之后And this 要特别小心因为 this 其实指的是逗点前面的这整句话，所以这可以帮助顾客的需求，而且并且能够满足的这件事情，就导致了 the codes。如果看到定冠词 the 就表示前文有出现，那么如果这篇文章第一句已经看到 QR codes， 当然这个 codes 大概8-9不离十，应该就讲的是 QR codes 吧。所以文意当中呢，又提到让 QR codes 更为广泛的流行，所以 A 选项在文意上基本上应该就是在解释为什么 QR codes 会这么普及呢？而且有很多的代名词暗示着你应该会放在什么后面。B 选项有一个 however 就表示文意的转折，后面讲的是你可能不知道他们从哪里来哟。他们指的是什么？言下之意是前文应该会说这个有很多东西你们大概都听过也看过，但是你大概不知道它从哪里来哟。感觉上这个选项是放在前面，要介绍 they 是什么东西。好， C 选项呢，看到人哈拉跟他的一些研发者 希望大家不只是能够读取这些 codes， 也希望能够想出一些新的方法来应用这些 codes。 所以 C 选项应该是出现在研发者之后，除了研发 QR code 之外，还希望大家能够如何，这是有关于对未来的一个展望。那么 D 选项一开始又出现代名词啦 ，they 他们只能容纳20个字， character 就是所谓的字的意思，当然指的是一些字符啊、字元。但是对于科技效率越来越提高，就需要一种 a code with more capacity， 容量更高的一种代码。好，所以这边的 then 呢 ，they 这个主词的 they 啊，指的感觉好像是有一个什么过时的东西啊，不够用啦，所以才会出现另外一种新的 code。好，我们4个选项都很熟文意咯，所以接下来赶快看一下这个文章。在第一段就先告诉我们，我们到处都看到 QR code， 甚至杂志都有很多 QR code。既然一开始介绍 QR code 无所不在，可是你们可能不知道到底 QR code 怎么来的哦。所以第一格选 B 应该是比较适切的，因为整篇我们接下来至少在第2段就看到 QR code 的研发者咯。那么第2段 Hara Masahiro 是在日本的公司叫做 Denso Wave， 1990年代的时候，而当时因为条码有一些 limitations 限制。既然条码有限制，是什么样的限制呢？选 D 的答案，因为只能够容纳20个字符，所以不太够诶。所以当时受到围棋黑白棋的一种启发，哈拉他就创造了一个 square pattern。 那这个所谓的方形符号就包含了 positional information 位置的资讯。这个位置资讯可以告诉扫描器要怎么来读取，所以后面的 which 到 it 是名词子句， which way to read it 怎么来读，它是 tell 的受词。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. We're back, guys. We're talking about QR codes, which are kind of old hat to a lot of us out there, or a lot of you out there. If something's old hat, and it's H-A-T, old, like not new. Old hat, it just means, you're familiar with it. It's been around for a long time, no big deal. So, yeah, QR codes are old hat to the younger generation. All of you are really familiar with QR codes. I don't remember exactly the first time I became aware of QR codes. It might have been with Line. It might have been with Line. I didn't understand what they were for a long time because I didn't take the time to do any research. Depends on how busy I am. But now they've been around for quite some time. And I was just using one the other day. I wanted to get more information about a company, and I used their QR code that they had put up. So anyway, a lot of us know what it is by now. We're explaining, though, its origins. It was a wonderful man, Hara Masahiro. He's the one who thought, we need something beyond the barcode. It just can't hold very much information. And back then, or even today, barcodes only hold 20 characters, which is something I'm just learning now. I do know that I've used barcodes to see if a product I bought was past its expiration date, if I shouldn't be eating it anymore, a can of beans or something, for example. Or a hair product. Sometimes if it goes beyond its expiration, it can hurt your hair, guys, so be careful. But Hara just needed something that would control or have more information embedded in it. And he was inspired by black and white pieces on a Go board. Very interesting. It's what it is around us, I think, that inspires us. So your environment is really important to your inspiration in life. Think about that.
Yeah, I guess the Go board or the Weiqi board has an infinite number of positions that the pieces can be. I don't think it's infinite, but you can have thousands and thousands of different possibilities. But I think that's where he was inspired because, hey, there are all these different kinds of moves that you can make when playing Go. So, hey, maybe I can come up with some kind of code to include that amount of information. So, yes, indeed, he created a square pattern that included positional information telling the scanner which way to read it. And as a result, QR codes can store information both horizontally, which would be left and right, and vertically, up and down. And this will pack a considerable amount of information into a relatively small space. Now, I did not know that. I did not know that it could read both left and right and up and down, horizontally or vertically. That must indeed contain a lot of information.
Kind of crazy, huh? Yeah, that's a lot more information that's available if it has all of these different directions that it can read. And it says here that the scanner knows how to read the positional information, so it's kind of cool. Now, moving down to that last sentence in the second paragraph, it talks about how QR codes can store information both horizontally and vertically. Horizontal is across, vertically is up and down. So if something's horizontal, for example, if you go shopping and you're looking for clothes, ladies especially who want to look as thin as possible, you want to find clothes that have vertical stripes instead of horizontal stripes that make you look wider than you want to. Be careful with that. So horizontal, again, across, vertical is up and down. So yeah, these QR codes would pack a heck of a lot of information into that relatively small space if you could read in every direction you can think of. It's kind of cool.
Now, this is a big deal when it came out. It was new, it was clever, nobody else had done it before. So you can describe something like that as being a breakthrough, okay? Something new and revolutionary. So after Hara's breakthrough, it took some time before QR codes began conquering the world. Yes, that's probably true. We do see them around, but barcodes are still quite popular, as I said, especially in convenience stores. So QR codes are not used for everything, but they are getting more and more common. Now, at first, or at the beginning, they were used in automobile manufacturing. So yes, when you make cars, especially say Mazda or Toyota or Mitsubishi or whatever, in those companies, they needed these QR codes to help them manufacture cars.
It makes sense. The Japanese came up with a manufacturing philosophy called just in time, which meant they wouldn't just store all of these extra pieces in warehouses forever. They just have enough so that they'd have just the right number when they needed them. So they were really good at this stuff, so it's not surprising that they first used it in automobile manufacturing, especially at that time, when even in America, people consider Japanese cars to be made better than American. I don't know if that's true anymore, but at the time it was very true. So manufacturers in other industries, maybe the clothing industry or the steel industry, different types of industries, they quickly found that the code's ability to hold or contain so much detail was really great for efficiency, helped them save time and effort. It also helped them respond to consumer demands for greater transparency in production and shipping. Transparency just means people who are willing to tell you what's happening or let you know what's going on instead of like trying to hide it. So if something's transparent, for example, a skirt that's transparent means you can see through it. But if a government is transparent, it means they're not trying to hide things or lie to you about things that are going on. So it helped consumers know exactly what was happening with production, when their item was going to ship, things like that.
Exactly. So, yes, indeed, that would give consumers more information about the product. And, of course, this led to the codes becoming more widespread, more popular, more available in different parts of the world. And another thing that boosted their popularity was DensoWave's decision to make QR code specifications public so anyone could use them.
Cool.
This happens sometimes. Of course, companies sometimes guard their secrets. Hey, we invented this. We don't want other people to make money from our idea, so we're going to keep it. But
isn't that, Tom, isn't that called open source?
Yes, indeed. I think that's what it is. And they're thinking, no, we want to help out everybody with this. It's available for everybody. We're not trying to make a bunch of money for ourselves and not for other people. So, yes, they made this public and they made it available for anyone if they want to access the codes.
Cool.
So, yes, indeed, the specifications became public. Anybody can use these things and they can learn the specifications.
Now, if you can access something, guys, it just means that thing is where you can get your hands on it. You're not being held back from it. So it means you can approach or enter a place, if it's a place you're talking about, or if you have access to the internet, it just means the internet is available for use to you at least. So they wanted people who use them to come up with new ways to implement them. If you implement something, implement just means you put it into action or you use something. You can maybe put a decision you've made. You can implement it, or put it into action. Implement a plan. Put an action plan into use.
As for what the future holds for QR codes, Hara says black and white codes have become so mundane now. Mundane just kind of means common and boring. I'd like to create more spectacular QR codes that can stimulate people. So, hey, maybe we're going to have some color codes in the future.
We're going to go color, yeah.
Or different designs, and not just the squares, but maybe circles and triangles. Who knows what he's going to come up with? So, yes, indeed, that's what the future holds for QR codes. And that brings us to the end of our explanation. Here comes our Chinese teacher.
所以啦，那这种 QR code 呢，就能够拥有很多的资讯。那么在第二段第6句的地方，其实有2个动词。第一个动词是 store 储存，第二个动词分词构句哦，逗点之后的 pack 本来应该是 and pack， 能够打包很多的资讯。那么文章顺着下来，就直接把 and 删掉。pack 变成 packing。 那么接下来我们就看到第3段咯。因为哈拉他其实发明这个 QR code 之后啊，一开始是用在汽车制造业，那么其他的制造业很快的就发现，哇，它这个很好用诶。我们看到接下来第3格，其他的制造业也发现它很好用诶，效率很高，所以这里变成是在陈述 QR code 为什么可以快速的传播。第3格答案选 A， 因为它可以呼应顾客的需求啦，然后在制造跟这个运输方面呢，都能够资讯透明化。不过接下来第3段的第5句要特别注意哦 ，another thing 后面带的 that 一直到 popularity 是个关系子句。那么另外一个能够让 QR code 非常普及的原因，就是因为 DensoWave 这个公司根本就把 QR code 规格整个公开。第4格文章接着下来，因为他们希望大家可以用，也可以自己产出，所以 QR code 的未来是很光明，而且可能还会有更多的变化哦。以上是我们今天的内容，我是安娜，我们下次见。
That's it for today, everybody. Thank you for joining us, and please join us again next time for another edition of our program. And maybe someday we'll see some new QR codes on the market. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.